So, Joe, halfway through the season, now we go through week 7 of our power rankings. Going to put yours up first here. Who do you have in your top 10?
I'm an Ohio State hater. I think Ohio State sucks. Look, they're number 1 on my power rankings.
State fans are really mad at you right now.
Why? Just because I tell the truth. I am a hater, apparently. Y'all just don't want to listen. Apparently, Will Howard's a Heisman Trophy winner, and I'm not giving him the credit for it. You know, God forbid I'm a little bit realistic about what he can do. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Texas. Number 3, Miami. Number 4, Georgia. Number 5, Oregon. Number 6, Penn State. 7, Alabama. 8, Ole Miss. 9, Clemson. 10, Tennessee.
All right, so I'm going to go through mine here, Joe. Not a lot of changes or mix-ups here. We both have about the same top 5. Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Miami, Penn State, Alabama, Ole Miss, Clemson, and at number 10, LSU. Go ahead and rip me a lap for my number 10.
Well, look, can we talk about Ohio State first in all seriousness?
Okay,
let's jump into it because it's probably what the title of this video is going to be. Why Ohio State should be number 1. I think, and I said this a couple of times this week, they have been the only team that has, I think, the strongest win and the best record combined. They're not the team with the best win on the season so far because Alabama beating Georgia has been the most impressive. But what I'm talking about here is that I think that in the way that they played against Iowa and how easily they dominated them, I think that win is equally as impressive as the game that Texas had over Michigan. I don't think Michigan's heads above Iowa. I really don't. I think those teams are very similar. I think Michigan's just a little bit better defensively. That's the only difference. They're just as much of a mess offensively as Iowa is. It's not saying a whole lot. So I think that to this point
on offense now,
dude, they've been through 3 quarterbacks. Michigan's been through 3 quarterbacks. They don't know who they're going to. They could end up going to a 4th by the time the season's over. They don't know who they can turn to.
I get what you're saying, but one is still in the 80s in total offense, and another one is at like in the 130s. I get what you're saying, but still.
Iowa's only other loss this season is to an Iowa State team that we're going to prop up that I actually considered putting at 10, but I couldn't take Tennessee out yet. I think that what Ohio State has done so far this year has been extremely impressive, and more importantly, they have blown through every single team that they have played, albeit it being G5 programs. Texas is not far behind them, but the argument is certainly to be had that Ohio State has done some great stuff this year, and I think that Michigan win is not as shiny as it was when we reacted to it after a couple of weeks.
It's tough for me to come in here and argue with you on who needs to be the number 1 team because you're justifying that, like, hey, man, they've looked sharp against an Iowa team. I'm going to be real with you. Iowa, for what it's worth, I don't think they're as good as they were or have been the last few years defensively. Joe, they were going into that game 70th in the country in passing yards allowed. They got thrown all over. I mean, Will Howard threw for 4 touchdowns, Joe, and I'm not getting in that conversation with you. But the bottom line is, you're projecting with them because they have.
I'm not. I'm actually not. This isn't a projection.
Okay, not you. I'll say me. I'm projecting here. I don't think if you lined up any team in America on a neutral field right now, Ohio State versus Ohio State's going to be a favorite in all of them because of what we are at right now. That's why I have it at number 1. However, they have not been tested, not the way that they need to be tested. I don't know if Oregon's the team to test them the way that they need to be. I think that they win, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But, Joe, there's something about being a team, like being them and seeing what we need to see. I mean, look, the Michigan situation, Joe, for what it's worth, a year ago when they didn't play anybody, then they played Penn State and ran the ball the whole second half, and they won. That's a far cry, man. Teams don't normally do that. National championship teams, if you look at them historically, Joe, get tested early in the year and then continue to get better. I mean, Georgia – you look at Bama, you look at Ohio State the year that they won it in 2014, challenged earlier in the year. So for me, I'll just say I'm projecting. I think that they're the best team in the country. Now, how does Will Howard look coming after this? I think he's played good. I really do. I'm again not trying to get in that argument.
We're not doing that.
But at the same time, I think that they have it. I think that the staff, the players, experienced quarterback, I think they have everything that I look for in a national championship type team, and I think that that's them. That's why I have them at 1.
Yeah, and it's not a knock on Texas. I think Texas has been tremendous, and yeah, the way that they beat Michigan was impressive. They smoked Mississippi State without Quinn, and they've played a bunch of G5 teams. But I think if we're looking at which team has been the most balanced, balance isn't even what I'm looking for. Which team has the best? Which team has the strongest roster front to back and is the strongest at every single position group? I have to go to Ohio State because right now Texas is a glaring issue at running back because of the injuries that they suffered. We don't know if that's ever going to really get better and how that would play out in a really big, tough matchup. I don't have any questions with Ohio State because if Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson goes down, they turn to the other guy. They I think are just a little bit more gifted at every single position, and they're currently healthier.
To the point, again, if I told you Texas, Ohio State, and Council Bluffs, Iowa, you would take Ohio State.
Yeah. That's the whole point of this. Yeah.
That's why I was trying to interrupt you. That's what I'm literally making the same point. I think we're square on them.
Right.
In reference to that. All right. What team do we have in our rankings here that you want to hop to next?
Let's talk about Oregon because you've got Oregon at 4, and if I'm correct, I moved them down to 5, and I actually considered moving them to 6. My preparation for this week allowed me to dig into the film for Oregon, and I got to be completely honest, their defense is phenomenal. Their defensive line's deep, and it's really gifted. There's some really talented young players, but I still wonder if Dylan Gabriel is as good as we thought he was going to be coming into this season. He had a couple of bad picks in the game against Michigan State. Not a lot of great decisions. I really wonder if we're going to be talking a lot differently about Oregon after this game against Ohio State. I still think that they're top 10 worthy, but I'm a little wary about them being as good as top 4, top 3.
I mean, Joe, think about the game right now, though, right? Let me give an example. Ohio State and Oregon's a 2.5 point spread? About 2.5, 3.5?
I think I got it at 3.5.
Okay.
No, 3. I think I got it.
Okay. So basically on a neutral field, it'd be 6. Okay. So what the way that I think about that is, again, in a power rankings, not a rating, like where teams need to be rated, in a power ranking, Oregon will be there because number 1, they're undefeated. Number 2, they've won all their games. And because of power margin point spread. I actually agree with you in everything that you said. I think they've been flawed. Right? I think they've been massively flawed in a lot of things that they've done. Oregon fans think I hate them, but you loved me last year because I was all over you. Okay? The problem is, Joe, they've had let me say it like this. As well as Ole Miss's defense has gone and all the guys that they brought into the portal, I feel like the difference has happened with offense at Oregon. Right? I know some of them have been there a couple years and then you go and get a quarterback. Something's off. Now, Joe, again, if they go out there and beat Ohio State this week, then what? I mean, there comes a.
I mean, I just don't think that they're going to. I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, but let's play in this scenario, though, because we played it with Alabama a couple of weeks ago when they beat Georgia. So let's play the what-if game. What if Oregon beats Ohio State? Because there comes a point now, okay, that if we do the same thing for Alabama, the best win on the season would be against Ohio State.
Well, yes, that's true. But the problem is when I asked that question with Alabama, I fully wholeheartedly believed that Alabama was going to end up as the number 1 team in the country. I really thought that they were going to beat Georgia and that they were going to move up. I just, don't see that path happening. But if it hypothetically did, they'd have the best record. They'd have the best win. They would then, on our power rankings and how we do these conversations, would have proved the most. The inverse of that, if Ohio State wins this football game, I think that they've got enough grace after that victory to hold that spot at number 1 for a pretty steady amount of time. No matter what Texas does this weekend doesn't move things up for me.
I'm not going to say that because Texas plays Georgia next weekend, and you know good and damn well if Texas beats Georgia, you'll put them back over 1. So don't – no. You won't do that.
I don't think that. No. I would move them up, but like
exactly.
I don't think
because Texas would have beaten Michigan and then beaten Georgia.
I don't think the game's for 2 weeks.
Pretty sure it's next week.
No, actually, maybe you're right.
Yeah, they have Texas. I got Texas' schedule right here because I'm talking about them tonight on AYS. They have Oklahoma, Georgia, Vandy bye.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Hey, man, that's a nice little stretch for Texas. Yeah. Oklahoma, Georgia, and then Vandy. Vandy has the chance to do the funniest shit ever. They have the chance to do the funniest shit ever. I'm going to laugh my ass off. All right. We'll see. In reference to finishing this out about Oregon, I don't know, man. I think that they finally play up to who they need to be this week. All right. You've taken on a couple of mine. Joe, there's a team I got to get to, if you don't mind here. We got to talk about Clemson, man. Look, we've been 6 straight weeks without talking about Clemson. They've been in our top 10 every single week for the last 3 weeks. I'm sorry, man. We got to talk about little old Clemson.
Clemson is worthy of being a top 10 team to this point because they have the benefit of the doubt of their only loss being to another top team, and they've blown out all the crappy teams on their schedule. They haven't played anybody since that Georgia game, which is to their benefit because they're building a little momentum. They're gaining some confidence back. Klubnik's looking really good because he's getting some opportunities to try things and figure stuff out, and they're getting into this good rhythm. But I think I feel not the least confident, but I feel like I know the least about a team on this board because of how volatile of the results. They barely show up against Georgia, and then after that, they're smoking every single team that they play. Is that supposed to be more telling of Georgia? Is this supposed to be telling that Clemson deserves to be there? That could change really quickly later on in the season if they drop a game against a more competent opponent.
I'm going to say this, and I don't want you to freak out, okay? I did make a statement last week of the top being a little bit very much separated from the bottom half of our power rankings, basically because I was talking about Georgia versus Clemson in that scenario, right? Now, in that, Joe, I will say this. I'm not going to get swayed very much about Alabama losing to Vandy in reference to this. I still think they're a good team. I still think they're going to make the playoff. Like, there's so many different things that I think about Bama. I think we see a game like that and be like, oh, well, man, you know what? Anything can happen this year. And that's very true. But chalk is still chalk. And, Joe, regardless, I mean, again, I go back to it. Clemson has been serviceable, man. I mean, you can take the Georgia game for what it's worth. I mean, Joe, what are we taking it? Okay, this is what if you go back and watch it, I take out of it. Yes, they couldn't move the ball on offense. Have they gotten better? Yeah. But I know that they stuck around with them for 2.5 quarters. And then Depp took over. They couldn't score. Defense gets tired. They're on the field for 75 plays. And then it was over, right? Like, that's what I take from it. Okay, so you are competitive. I know the offense stunk. I know that. I've seen teams be very competent and really good teams that are deficient on one side of the football. Like, Joe, think of the teams that were at 10, 11, 12 last year. Think about the LSU team last year. They're deficient on one side of the football, but you have them in that part of your ranking because, look, man, either one of those balls can win you a football game. You know what they have done, though, that I love? I think Dabo has gotten back to Dabo. Joe, they're running the football. I don't care. Look, man.
Yeah.
I don't get too Rudy Poos. Who they're playing against, dog, they're lining up and just punching people on 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And you know what? Cade Klubnik, to his credit, Joe, they run 3, 3, 3, 3, shot. And Joe, that is how they have been beating the dog shit out of everybody. Is I think that for what it's worth, to this moment, Dabo, you hear my voice squeak like I was a little schoolgirl. Dabo. Anyway, I think that they've been serviceable. They're getting back to just basic fundamentals to win these football games.
Yeah, it just needs to be contextualized that, they're doing this against App State. They're doing it against NC State with a backup quarterback in. They did it against Florida State, and they actually played Florida State closer than I think many people expected that they would. And they did it against Stanford. So and they're not going to get tested until maybe Pitt. I don't think Louisville is much better than them. Maybe Virginia Tech gives them a little bit of a scare.
Eli Holstein can trouble them.
Yeah,
Eli Holstein can trouble them. I'm with you, but look, man. Let me ask you this question: Clemson, Miami tomorrow. Who are you taking?
Miami. No,
okay.
I'm thinking twice. Miami.
I'm with you, but let me ask you this question: the way that Miami's been up and down, do you question things like?
Well, wait. We can't.
No, this is completely.
Clemson's also been up. They've been up and down.
Completely separate from the power rankings. Like, if you broke the game down today, would there be something in the back of your mind that, like, hey, man, Clemson, too many turnovers for Miami. They played around, and that's how Clemson won. Like, I would think about that.
I think that that outcome is complete. And for some reason, people keep trying to push this out of the conversation. The outcome is completely different because they're not traveling across the country during a game week to go play Cal. And in that situation, you're coming more locally to face one another.
Country to play Cal or start the season off playing Georgia? You choose.
I mean, I don't think that applies to what we're.
It definitely applies. All right, Joe. What other team that you want to get to here on our power rankings?
LSU shouldn't be on the top 10. I'm sorry, they don't belong on there. Because what if are we just putting them in there because all these other teams have taken steps backward over the past couple of weeks? I feel like that's the only reason.
I mean, Joe, they're 12.
Why?
I can make an argument for 10, 11, 12.
I don't think Tennessee's loss is so bad that they deserve to get yanked. I think that, if anything, the USC loss at the current moment might be worse.
Oklahoma State, who's 3-3.
Okay, that's a lot of transitive property we're doing there.
It is.
You can't hype up Arkansas and then suddenly now they're not very good.
I didn't say that they're not very good, but when it comes to a power ranking, Joe, named it. I'm taking Tennessee out until they can prove to me against a Power 4 team that they can move the football.
Like, they played a bad football game on the road with a young quarterback. I'm willing to give them credit to bounce back. I absolutely am giving them credit to bounce back. I don't have as much confidence in LSU's defense, and that's where you and I have been fighting with one another. Is I just don't have any confidence in their defense.
Okay, well, they've jumped 75 spots from a statistical standpoint. Joe, they're 15th in the country in sacks. I mean, you can say, yes, people look at USC and people look at South Carolina and say, that's all that they've done. Joe, that's not all that they've done. I think people see them on primetime and then they lose and then they struggle, okay, for one half, I might add, okay, and then that's all that they've seen from them. They haven't seen everything else. I mean, everybody looked at Tennessee and said, oh, man, they're a juggernaut because they're playing Kent State. And what we're going based off of is those other games that we saw them on.
Okay, wait. You're not – hold on one second. You're not having this conversation with other people. You're having this conversation with me, and I've been paying attention to all of these things.
Okay, fair. But you got on to me earlier in the week for calling you out about what, a lot of people agree with me. All I'm saying is they're 3-0 when I put them in my top 10. And goddamn it, I need a win. Sorry for that. I shouldn't have said it like that. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah.
I need a win.
I really think that just like you're willing to give LSU's defense the ability to bounce back, I'm willing to give Tennessee's offense the ability to bounce back.
I've seen LSU's defense make stops and be competitive against Power 4 opponents, unlike the 17 points of offense that Tennessee has against the last two Power 4 opponents that they've played. Joe, there comes a point when if I told you that there'd be a 2-game stretch in the SEC that Tennessee averaged 17 points, what would you come? Hold on, please answer the question. What would you come in here and tell me?
What?
No, I mean, I'm asking. I know what you'd say. You would say, hey, man, when did Nico get hurt? Who was the backup? because you know good and god dog well you would have not come in here and said Nico would be projecting that. But the reality of Tennessee at the exact moment, even though I agree with you that they're going to start getting better every week and they're going to get better under him, there comes a point with they've only averaged 17 points the last two SEC opponents that they played.
And look, I get that argument that you're making is that their offense has taken a step back and it has sputtered a little bit. But they have the past two games that they've played against Arkansas and Oklahoma. I argue that in a stretch where since LSU lost to USC, Tennessee has now played more difficult opponents. I think that South Carolina win is inflated personally. I really don't think South Carolina is very good. Like I think that they're riding off of one position group that is at the top of the conference, and the rest of that roster is very mediocre, which has been my whole argument the whole offseason.
What's Notre Dame's best win?
Come on, man. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
I'm just asking.
They're not in the top 10. They're not ranked in our top 10s. We're not debating Notre Dame.
I'm asking. And
they don't have a best win. Their resume sucks. They shouldn't get into the playoff.
Let me go Tennessee. What's Tennessee's best win?
Oklahoma. Oklahoma's ranked right now.
Joe, you know good and dog.
Oklahoma's better than South Carolina. They play South Carolina next week. We're going to find out who's actually good in that matchup.
Oklahoma has no business being in anybody's top 25 right now. Nobody's. And you know that just as well as I do. Ball knowers know.
All right, well, we're not doing a resume thing anyways.
All right. Let me go to yours because I got a bone to pick with you.
What?
No, actually, I don't know. I'm trying to. Oh, let's talk about Alabama. So okay. Alabama drops 7th in both of ours. Joe, is it right for us to put Georgia ahead of Alabama?
Yes. Because I think that, and this is going to require a little bit of mental gymnastics here that I think some listeners are going to hate. The way that Georgia played in the second half and the way that they bounced back against Auburn is more indicative of who they are. They got outcoached in the first half. Inversely, the mistakes and the issues that were exposed for Alabama that can cause them to lose games down the road that were shown in the second half against Georgia and against Vandy deserve them to be a little bit behind Georgia. I think Georgia, dude, I keep saying this. I've said this on the radio spots. I've said it on this show. I've said it on other shows. I really think that loss early in the season was the best thing for Georgia. I think that Georgia is going to just keep climbing because they're a team that gets pissed off when they lose games like that, and they know how to correct their issues.
Well, I'm not going to go that far because one of their receivers that they were utilizing, and Colby Young got arrested yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, Georgia, I'm going to talk about them later tonight. Think about this. They have Mississippi State at Texas bye. Then they have Florida at Ole Miss, Tennessee, UMass, and Georgia Tech. They can slip up in one of these not named Texas. They can that 100%.
UMass.
No, I mean, think about this. What if we learn a lot about Ole Miss this week? Like, what if we really do? Okay, and I mean, Joe, I'm just gonna tell you, man. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel icky putting a team like Georgia above Bama. I'm gonna be real with you because it actually happened on the field. Power rankings don't mean shit when something happened on the field. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like, I feel stupid for putting it. Now, I know why I did because I think in a rematch they would win.
Well, right. So that's the whole point of what a power ranking is if said team played one another, who would win in these situations. And I agree. I think Georgia would win in a rematch.
I do too. But I feel because there's going to be a Bama fan that comes off in here. They do it every single week when we do our power rankings. There's going to be a Bama fan in here that's going to say, oh, look at these sons of guns. We beat Georgia on the field. And I got to be real with you. I actually feel them on it. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, you did. You did. And look, you beat them by 6 or 7, whatever. Yeah, you beat them by 7. It's not like you beat them by a touchdown. Joe, if I would have told you Bama beats Georgia by a touchdown 3 weeks ago, you'd be like, damn. Like, damn. They did it. They did it. And then you're going to ask me, like, how did they do it? Was it like the SEC championship game last year when they did the same exact thing? Because I know one thing, I was like, damn, Milroe actually did it. So there just comes a part, Joe, where I'm like, yeah, I'm with them on that. That's all I got to say. All right.